Welcome back to our Torah study, Rambam on the Perasha. This week's Perasha, Tzav et Aharon, as well as last week's Perasha, deals with the various korbanot, sacrifices that the Jewish people brought to the Beit HaMikdash. There are 5 basic categories of sacrifices. The first, Korban Olah, which was a sacrifice of an animal, and it was completely burnt. This was a wholehearted gift offering to God. Then you have Korban Mincha. Our sages tell us it was the common man's Korban Olah. It comprised of wheat flour, olive oil, and some frankincense. Then you have Korban Shelamim, which was an offering of thanksgiving. The meat was usually eaten and shared with the Kohanim. Korban Chatat was a sin offering. And finally, the 5th was Korban Asham, which was an offering brought for various types of intentional, unintentional violations. There was another category of sacrifices. The Korbanot, the Kohen brought on behalf of the people of Israel. They were called the Temidin, or in singular, the Korban HaTamid. There was a morning Korban and an afternoon Korban. The Gemara in the 4th chapter of Masechet Berachot tells us that Tefilah keneged Temidin tiknum. Our daily prayers correspond to the daily Korbanot that the Kohanim brought in the Beit HaMikdash. Rambam, Maimonides, codifies in his Mishneh Torah this linkage between Korban HaTamid and Tefilah. I want to read to you from Hilchot Tefilah, 1st chapter, Halacha Hey, number 5. V'chein tiknu, shehiyeh minyan ha-tefilot keminyan ha-korbanot. And this is what the sages have established, that the number of daily prayers correspond to the number of sacrifices, daily sacrifices. Shetei tefilot b'chol yom keneged shenei temidin. The 2 prayers that we recite daily correspond to the 2 temidin that were brought in the Beit HaMikdash. V'chol yom sheyesh bo korban musaf, tiknu bo tefilah shelishit keneged korban musaf. And on those days where the Kohanim brought a korban musaf, such as Shabbat, holidays, or Rosh Chodesh, we too have a Tefilah musaf. Parenthetically, in the next halacha, it's important that you understand, Rambam speaks of the Arvit service. V'chein hitkinu sheyeh adam mitpalel tefilah achat balayla. The Chachamim also established an evening prayer. Sheharei evrei tamid shel ben harbayim mitakelim v'olchim kol halayla. This prayer as well is very much related to the sacrifices. In the evening, the Korban HaTamid of the afternoon would burn out throughout the night. Rambam continues, and this is important to know, Ve'ein tefilat arvit chova ketefilat shacharit u'mincha. The arvit service is not obligatory like shacharit and mincha are. However, ve'af al pi kein nahagu kol Yisrael b'chol mekomot moshvotehem leitpalel arvit ve'kiblu alehem ketefilat chova. Nevertheless, says Rambam, all the Jewish people, wherever they may be, have accepted upon themselves to recite arvit every night, and it is thus a prayer of chova. This shiur, I want to discuss 3 insights on Rambam's approach to Tefilah. Insight number 1. Rambam introduces the laws of Tefilah as follows. And I want to read to you from the same chapter, however, Halacha 1. Mitzvat aseh lehitpalel b'chol yom. It is a biblical commandment, a positive mitzvah, to pray every day. Shneimar va'avadetem et Adonai Elohechem. As the verse says, and you shall serve the Lord your God. Mipi hashemua lamdu. From tradition, it was taught. She'avodah zo hi tefilah. The word avodah, which I'm translating now as service, is tefilah. Shene'emar ulavdo bechol levavchem, as the verse says, and you shall serve God with your heart. Amru chachamim, eizohi avodah shebalev. What is avodah shebalev? Zo tefilah. That is tefilah. Here, Harambam refers to tefilah as avodah shebalev. I translate it as service. Others have translated it or mistranslated it as the worship of the heart, or worship is prayer. I do not believe either of these translations actually capture what Harambam is trying to convey to us. The term avodah in rabbinic literature refers to the korbanot, sacrifice, the sacrifices in the Beit HaMikdash. In fact, the volume that deals with korbanot and the service in the Beit HaMikdash, Harambam himself calls it Sefer Avodah. Avodah shebalev for Rambam means placing your heart on the altar of prayer, sacrificing your heart to God. An experience that goes far beyond the colloquial pouring your heart out. I want to look at one text from the Moreh Nevuchim. And of course, as I always tell you, I will read a sampling of the text in the hope that you will go back and read the entire chapter. I read from chapter 51 in section 3 of the Moreh Nevuchim. I'm trying to capture Harambam's passion about prayer. I read as follows. From here on, I will begin to give you guidance with regard to the form of this training, so that you should achieve this great end. The first thing that you should cause your soul to hold fast onto is that while reciting the Shema prayer, you should empty your mind of everything and pray thus. You should not content yourself with being intent while reciting the first verse of the Shema and saying the first benediction. When this has been carried out correctly and has been practiced consistently for years, cause your soul, whenever you read or listen to the Torah, to be constantly directed, the whole of you and your thought, toward reflection on what you are listening to or reading. Trust me when I tell you, this little sampling does not do justice to Harambam's passion for what prayer is really about. I encourage you, read the entire chapter. Harambam speaks of an absolute and complete submission and devotion to Hashem, with no distraction. A complete avodah shebalev. Insight number 2. For Rambam, Tefilah is deoraita, biblically ordained. It has the weightiness of the laws that are biblical. I repeat the text that I read earlier. Mitzvat aseh lehitpalel bechol yom. It is a positive mitzvah to pray every day. Harambam ratifies this halacha in his Sefer HaMitzvot, where he lists the 613 biblical commandments. In Mitzvat Aseh 5, the 5th of the positive commandments, Harambam says, Hi hatzivui shenitztavinu le'ovdo it'aleh. We are commanded to serve the Almighty. V'nichpal hatzivui hazeh kama pe'amim. And this commandment has been repeated a number of times. Ulshon hasifrei, Harambam says, ulovdo zu tfilah. To serve God means to pray. Ave'amru od, ulovdo ze Talmud. He adds, the lashon of ulovdo also refers to Torah study. Uvmishnato shel Rabbi Eliezer beno shel Rabbi Yossi Aglili, and in the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Amru, minayin leikar tefillah betoch mitzvot. How do we know that prayer, Tefilah, is indeed counted amongst the mitzvot? Mehacha, from the following: Et Adonai Elohecha tira ve'oto ta'avod. One should fear God, and serve God. Ve'amru avdehu betorato. Avdehu refers to the Torah. Avdehu b'mikdasho, and in the Beit HaMikdash. Hakavana lishof lehitpalel bo v'nichocho. One is obligated to pray in the Beit HaMikdash, or at least towards the Beit HaMikdash, kemo shebe'er Shlomo, as Shlomo HaMelech explains in his book, in the book of Melachim. For Rambam, Tefilah is absolutely a biblical commandment, a mitzvah deoraita. How does Harambam define Tefilah? This is very, very important in understanding his entire Mahalach. Let me read to you from Hilchot Tefilah. Where did I put it? Here it is. Harambam defines prayer as follows. Ve'ein minyan hatefilot min haTorah. Number one, the number of prayers are not biblical. Ve'ein mishneh hatefillah hazot min haTorah. Neither is the text of prayer biblical. Ve'ein latefillah zman kavua min haTorah. And there is no set time for the biblically ordained prayer that takes place on a daily basis. Im haya ragil, marbe batechina ubakasha. If one is eloquent, then one could pray with much supplication and requests. Ve'im haya arel sfatayim. But if one is not eloquent, medaber kefi yecholto ubechol eit sheyirtzeh. One prays to the best of his or her ability whenever one would like to pray. Any act of prayer at any time is considered Tefilah. This is important because most medieval commentators disagree with Rambam. They argue that Tefilah is actually rabbinic, de Rabbanan. They note how the Gemara rules that if someone is in the midst of a meal, he or she does not have to get up and interrupt their meal in order to pray mincha. If indeed mincha was the oraita, of course one would have to interrupt the meal. For Rambam, this is a non-issue. As was just said, one fulfills the deoraita obligation by expressing just a few words of supplication to Hashem at any time during the day. Furthermore, Rambam is explicit that the content and the scheduled times of Tefilah are all rabbinic, de Rabbanan. The only aspect that is deoraita is once a day saying, "Please God, help me." As in our last shiur last week, I want to present an alternate point of view in order to amplify and better understand Rambam's perspective. Ramban Nachmanides, the great and saintly mystic from northern Spain, based on a number of sources, argues that Tefilah is de Rabbanan, is of rabbinic origin. Ramban adopts the position of European Jewry, such as Rashi and other in Ashkenaz, that argue that Tefilah is absolutely rabbinic, the Rabbanan. Ramban Nachmanides qualifies his position by stating that at a time of crisis, one is indeed biblically mandated to pray. Be'et tzara, at a time of personal and or national crisis. He bases his position on the verse in the book of Bimidbar. The Torah says, Ki tavo milchama be'artzechem, if war breaks out in your land, alatzara tzorer etchem, vaharoatem bachatzotserot, you shall blow the trumpets, v'nizkartem lifnei Adonai Elohechem, and you will be remembered before God, v'noshatem me'oivechem, and you will be saved from your enemies. In other words, at a time of national crisis or even personal crisis, calling out to God is a biblical commandment. This, says the Ramban, is the source that only at times of crisis is Tefilah de'oraita. Here, my friends, one begins to appreciate the brilliance and sensitivity of Rambam, Maimonides. Rambam would respond by saying, of course prayer is de'oraita at a time of crisis. This is what he writes at the beginning of Hilchot Ta'aniyot. And I want to quote for you, right at the beginning of Hilchot Ta'aniyot, Harambam says, Mitzvat aseh min haTorah liz'ok ule'ariyah b'chatzotzerot al kol tzara shetavo latzibur. It is a biblical commandment to call unto God at any time of crisis, certainly national crisis. For Rambam, any conscious human being wakes up every morning with the awareness that our world is far from perfect. Let's say your life is indeed perfect, but all one has to do is look around. The hospital is full of people that are sick. Our world is full of children that are hungry. We continue to yearn for the building of our Beit HaMikdash and Mashiach. Is this not crisis enough to render Tefilah de'oraita biblical on a daily basis? Maybe this is what Ramban and Chachmei Ashkenaz also believed, but they chose to frame their idea a little differently. Tefilah is de'oraita at a time of crisis, and for Maimonides, every day is a crisis, an existential crisis at the minimum. Insight number 3. I want to explore the last few lines in Harambam's formulation in Sefer HaMitzvot. I want to read it one more time for you. Harambam says over there, Hakavana lishof lehitpalel bo v'nochacho. It is the intent of the pasuk, Avdeu b'mikdasho, the intent of the rabbinic teaching to serve God in the temple is that one should attempt to pray either there or at least in the direction of the Beit HaMikdash, facing Jerusalem, Nochach Yerushalayim. He ends the passage by referencing Shlomo HaMelech. And here I'd like to read from Sefer Melachim. Shlomo HaMelech, after he dedicates the building of the Beit HaMikdash, he says the following: Liot einecha petuchot el habayit hazeh laila vayom. He looks to God and he says, your eyes should always be open towards this house, day and night. El hamakom asher amarta yeh shemisham. To this place where you said, my name will be attached to it. Lishmoa el hatefilah asher yitpalel avadecha el hamakom hazeh. To hear the prayers and the supplications of your people who pray towards this place. V'shamata el techinat avdecha ve'amecha Yisrael asher yitpalelu el hamakom hazeh. And you shall hear the supplication and the prayers of your people Israel who pray towards this direction. This is what Rambam references. At the end of the day, the Beit HaMikdash plays an important role in understanding Rambam's Tefilah. We end where we began. It is possible to argue that for Rambam, praying in the direction of the Beit HaMikdash, or directing one's heart towards Jerusalem, is actually part of the biblical mandate of Tefilah. Tefilah without Jerusalem, without the Beit HaMikdash, without the sense of sacrifice, of korbanot, for Rambam is meaningless. Thank you for your attention. Next week, I hope to discuss the laws of kashrut and ta'amei ha-mitzvot, the pursuit of reasons for the mitzvot, through the lenses of Rambam's teachings. Good evening.